What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we're going right back to that well, man. We are going to be doing another underdog draft. So hopefully you guys are all excited for that. We're actually going to be jumping into a draft called, or a tournament over there on Underdog called the Little Eliminator. So I don't want to really waste any time. Let's just pull this up on screen. We can start talking about it. And really seeing what we're getting ourselves into today. So if this is your first time over on the channel, I am Andrew. You can find me on Twitter or X now at Andrew Too True. Consider, if you like fantasy football content, we're posting content on here every single day. It's redraft, dynasty, best ball, really anything that you really want for fantasy football. We got it over here on the channel. So make sure you consider subscribing and liking the content. But without any further ado, let's talk a little bit about this little eliminator, because that's what we're going to be getting into today. So you see it here on screen. This is basically a tournament, $6 entries. They're allowing 93,000 entrants into this contest, but there is a $500,000 prize pool. We're going to be doing the 30 seconds per pick, the fast draft for you here on stream. But just to give you a breakdown, this is kind of some of the things we could win, right? But the thing that's going to make this tournament a little bit interesting and make it a little bit fun for us is each week teams are going to be getting booted out of the tournament, and it's going to be starting immediately. Like week 1, the bottom 2 teams in your league will be kicked out, and then it'll go on again. People kicked out, and then you start getting payments at week 9. So if you make it to week 9, you start getting paid. And so really, we're just trying our best not to be last on any given week. If you are at the bottom of your league on that given week, you're kicked out. So we got to build a team that can score a lot of fantasy points, because if we ever are at that bottom, we are going to be booted out of this tournament really quickly. So we're going to be trying it out. This is my first time doing the little eliminator. So I'm excited for it. Hopefully you guys are too. If you guys are in the chat with us tonight, go ahead and ask me anything you want. I am answering all fantasy football, all dynasty football, all NFL questions. So we're talking for about an hour tonight. So go ahead and ask me whatever you want. Or if you just want to say what up, say what up. But you see, we are going to be drafting from the 12 spot today. So this is going to be interesting. I don't really like drafting at the turns, and we get that 12th pick. So we're going to have to be a little calculated, because that second turn is going to be a very long wait for us. So hopefully we can figure that out. But you see the draft here, it's going to be or we got our first guy on the clock right here, Little Riser. So yeah, man, hopefully everybody's doing all right. You see Justin Jefferson coming first off the clock. And really, if you're unfamiliar with Underdog, these are 1 quarterback, 4-point passing touchdowns. There's 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flex. And that is really the starting lineup. I think that's right? There's 8 starting spots. So, and then you get 10 bench slots. So you're really just picking the best players for the lineups, because at the end of every given week, they will optimize the lineup for the highest scoring lineup. That's what best ball is. We don't have to set lineups. We don't have to make start-sit decisions. So it's really fun to do. Your primary focus is the draft, and after the draft, you just let the points roll in. So that is what we are doing over here on Underdog. And just to go over here real quick, you see we have Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, and Bijan Robinson off the board. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but this is also a half point per reception league. So it's half PPR, no tight end premium. We might be seeing an auto pick for fun right away. He gets Stephon Diggs, which isn't a bad pick. Obviously, you can't have bad auto picks in the first round. But as we are slowly approaching our pick, you see Austin Eckler off the board. And then we're not really going into this with any set strategy. I mean, we want to just draft best players available and kind of let the board play itself, let it come to us. Travis Kelce off the board after that, Nick Chubb off the board. And so it's looking like for us, we're probably going to be getting wide receiver here. So A.J. Brown's there, C.D. Lamb's there, Amon-Ra's there, Garrett Wilson. I honestly don't have an issue double tapping at the wide receiver position right now, especially considering who's on the board. Ideal start for me would be Amon-Ra, Garrett Wilson. And actually, funny enough, I was expecting him to go A.J. Brown. So I think we will go A.J. Brown, draft some AJB, and then we'll pair him with Garrett Wilson. And that'll be our start to our draft. So A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson to start off this draft. And I'm feeling very good about that one. So thank you guys for stopping by and checking out our channel. We are on a mission to get to 450 subscribers by the end of this live stream. That is the goal for this stream. We are very close. So if you're new to the channel, you like fantasy football, go ahead and ask me anything. I'm open to answering any questions, any type of things you have, and then consider subscribing to the channel, man. Appreciate it. And Brett, I see you over here in the chat. You said Garrett wide receiver 1. Yeah, I mean he's definitely in range to be a wide receiver 1 this year. I don't think he's going to be the wide receiver 1, but he's a guy that I'm very high on. You see in this draft, he went as the wide receiver 7 overall. And so people are getting high on him, man. I mean, I just watched the episode 3 of Hard Knocks today, and they had a little montage where Garrett Wilson was running some routes, and they were talking Devontae Adams, and Aaron Rodgers was talking about how special Garrett Wilson is, and it's good, man. It was everything I needed, and said, why not draft Garrett Wilson tonight? So it is what it is. We do have a very long wait. Some news and notes that we've been talking about lately. And if you missed last night's episode of Let's Talk Dynasty, my co-host MFGD's over there, War, we were talking the NFC West. But before we got into our show, we were talking some Jonathan Taylor. Because if you are unfamiliar, if you've been living under a rock, Jonathan Taylor was granted permission by the Indianapolis Colts to find a suitable trade partner, and they gave him a deadline. They said he could have until next Tuesday to find that trade partner. And so we were talking about potential destinations where Jonathan Taylor could go. Instant gut reaction, I thought Miami was the move. And over the last 24 hours or so, it seems like they have become the very heavy favorites. But it sounds like they have a certain price tag that they're willing to offer, and they will not come up off of that price. So I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you think that price tag is for Jonathan Taylor? If you're an NFL executive, what are you willing to give up to trade for Jonathan Taylor right now? Is he going to be worth the probably double-digit $1 million per year that he's going to want to be a starting running back? Because my guess is he's probably wanting $10, $11, $12 million per year on an annual basis. So, is it worth it? Do you think he'd be a good fit in Miami? Let me know in the comments. I see Brett says Miami. So, let me know if you think it would be a good fit. But that's what we were talking about last night. If you want to check those out, go ahead and check that out after this stream. It is Let's Talk Dynasty. It's a playlist over on our channel. Lots of good stuff there if you're a fan of Dynasty fantasy football. But let's recap a little bit of what has happened off of this draft board since we picked Garrett Wilson over there at the 201. We had Devontae Adams come off the board, C.D. Lamb, Patrick Mahomes, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tony Pollard, Jalen Waddle, Derrick Henry, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, Josh Allen, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, and Lamar Jackson. And then T. Higgins right there, the 3-4. So we're slowly but surely approaching our pick, but it will be a long break, like I've said before, in between each of these. And Brett over here in the chat, he says, I think he's worth it, and I'd give up a second only because RBs are hard to come by. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I threw out the number. I'd give 2 2s if I'm Miami. I would give their 2024 second and their 2025 second if I'm Miami, and I would go get Jonathan Taylor. I think he would be a great fit there. And honestly, I think if Jonathan Taylor goes to Miami, I think they're real. I mean, we should probably be having a conversation of them as the best team in the AFC East. We should really be having that conversation. So it is interesting to say the least. Caleb, I see you in the stream. What's up, man? He says, go get this money. Yeah, man, we're playing in the little eliminator, so we're trying to fight for our lives. The lowest scoring teams every week get kicked out of the tournament. So we're trying not to be kicked out of the tournament here. And he says, thoughts on AJ Brown over CD? Really, I think AJ Brown has higher upside. I'm a little bit lower on Dak Prescott and the Cowboys this year. With the offensive coordinator change, leaving Kellen Moore, I do think that the Cowboys do run the football a little bit more. And if they do, I'm not saying that CeeDee Lamb's going to be bad. I think CeeDee Lamb's going to be a low-end wide receiver 1, but I don't think CeeDee Lamb has that top 5 upside that we're looking for. And I just think AJ Brown does. Jalen Hurts is going to feed him the football, off the field. They're best friends. And I know that, sometimes that's not a lot of deep analysis, but we saw it last year. He was a hell of a fantasy football asset for you, and he has game-breaking ability to win you any given week. So AJ Brown over CD was just an upside pick, but I was considering CD too, but because I knew I wanted to take Garrett Wilson, I didn't want to double up on the week 7 bye weeks because CD and Garrett Wilson both have week 7 byes. But with this pick here, we're actually going to be going Keenan Allen. Big fan of Justin Herbert this year. I think Keenan Allen's going to be a beneficiary of those targets. And we might even consider keeping this trend going, and we might actually draft one more wide receiver. And so we're going to grab DJ Moore here for the Chicago Bears. So we'll grab Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and now all of a sudden our wide receiver room is AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. So I feel very, very good about that wide receiver room. And it's slowly adapting us into this 0 RB kind of build. Maybe not completely 0 RB, but we're definitely prioritizing the wide receivers so far. Brett says, if it isn't best ball like this draft is, do you take Devontae over Garrett? So just like a standard redraft league without best ball. It's tough to say, man. I'm so high on Garrett Wilson, and it's unhealthy because I understand that like where I have Garrett Wilson ranked is probably at his ceiling. I'm drafting him with no room for him to have any type of failure. I just think that where I feel Garrett Wilson talent-wise, I really do think that if there was, this is going to sound crazy, but it is honestly my true thoughts. If there was a wide receiver in the NFL that had the talent, the opportunity, and the ability to get into that Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase tier, if there was any wide receiver in the NFL that could do that, it would be Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is that good of a player. He's that good of a talent. I'm not saying he's going to. I'm just saying that he has the ability to do that. I view him right, probably. I would consider Garrett Wilson like right after Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs. Start considering Garrett Wilson there. My wide receiver 6 is about as early as I start considering him. So would I take him over Devontae? I guess in short, yeah, I probably would. But obviously Devontae Adams is a hell of a wide receiver. You can't go wrong drafting him either. We were just talking about him last night, obviously, because we were talking about the West divisions and we were talking about the Raiders. And the only thing that, gives me a little bit of pause about Devontae Adams is that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't target downfield. Now, I know if he gets 150 receptions, it's not going to matter whether he targets downfield or not. But I don't know, man. I'll bet on the guy that I think can enter that upper tier rather than a guy that I think can potentially decline. So it's an upside pick. And when I'm shooting here at these first and second round picks, I don't really think any of these guys are bad players. So I'm just taking the guys who have the most upside. I think they all have pretty safe floors. Both Adams and Garrett have pretty safe floors. So that's really my thoughts on that one. Good question, Brett. Let's kind of recap what has happened since our Keenan Allen, DJ Moore picks. We did have Deebo Samuel come off the board, Ramondre Stevenson, Breece Hall, Justin Fields, Jerry Jeudy. Crazy that Jerry Jeudy went there. Guy must not be paying attention, because from what it's sounding like, Jerry Jeudy's going to miss some time with the hamstring injury that he suffered today when he got carted off the field. Mike Williams comes off the board, Drake London off the board, Christian Watson, Najee Harris, Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson, and then Darren Waller. So we're kind of in a territory now where we're definitely going to punt the tight end position, because the top tier tight ends, Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson, all of those guys are kind of off the board. So we'll consider punting that position. Speaking of TJ Hawkinson, the Athletics' Diana Rossini, she's saying that they're reporting the Vikings and TJ Hawkinson are pretty far apart on a contract extension. So it's going to be interesting to see this offseason. Hawkinson hasn't really been practicing a ton. I know he's due for an extension. He claims that it's not about the extension, why he's not practicing or why he hasn't been practicing. There's been an ear infection and a stiff back and yada, 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 that, he hasn't been able to be on the field. But he says that it's not because of the money. We know guys want to get paid, man. People hold out. They do these silent holdouts these days where they don't really give any reasonings, but they just have an injury or an quote-unquote ear infection where they don't show up to practice. I don't know, man. I'm not too worried about TJ Hawkinson. On a scale of 1 to 10, my worry level would probably be a 2, a 1, maybe 1.5. I'm just not very worried about TJ Hawkinson. I think week 1, he's suited up. He's ready to play. He's going to be one of these top 5 tight ends for your fantasy teams again. Just not too worried there. But I thought it was interesting to hear that, some of the rumblings are that they reportedly are not close on an extension right now with TJ in Minnesota. So since that Darren Waller pick, we did have DeAndre Hopkins come off the board, Joe Burrow, Kenneth Walker, Brandon Ayuk, and then Justin Herbert. So we are approaching our pick here. As I look at this board, we're kind of entering that range where we're in that running back dead zone. But there is some guys here in the dead zone this year that I do like. So some of those being like Rachaad White, Swift, Kamara, Connor. Like, I feel like the dead zone this year feels good. And that might be scary, but it does. It doesn't feel bad. So I don't mind, smashing the wide receiver position early and then going back to the running back later in the drafts and just loading up there as well. So it's definitely a tactic that I've been doing on some of these teams. But as we approach this pick right here, I think what we will do is we probably will just double tap this. Actually, we're gonna just. I'm debating George Kittle here. That's kind of going through the thought processes. I'm debating George Kittle. I'm also debating adding a wide receiver and a running back. But what I do know is that I want to draft J.K. Dobbins here. And, actually, hold on. We will draft J.K. Dobbins. I'll rock with him as my RB1. And then why not? Let's draft George Kittle. We'll take Kittle, and then we'll go back as we come back to this next pick, and we'll go from there. So interesting build. I haven't drafted a lot of Dobbins, and I haven't drafted a lot of George Kittle this offseason so far. Been trying to diversify my best ball portfolio, and so we'll take those guys. I do have a ton of Garrett Wilson, a ton of DJ Moore this year, so it is there are some familiar faces. But if you've been watching all of these best ball drafts that we've been doing on this channel, there is a playlist. So if you do like watching these, you do like just hearing NFL conversation and watching fantasy football drafts, we have a whole playlist of these. So go back and watch them if you haven't watched them. And if you are just tapping into the stream for the first time, go ahead and leave a like on this video if you like the content. Of course, if you don't like the content, that's fine. I don't fault you, but if you like the content, go ahead and leave us a like. Consider subscribing, because we do have a goal to reach 450 subscribers on this channel by the end of this draft tonight. So but like I was saying, man, don't have a lot of George Kittle, don't have a lot of J.K. Dobbins, but we are going to be diversifying our portfolio a little bit over the next couple of weeks as we approach week 1. And we are only 2 weeks away, so football is coming quickly. I'm probably going to be doing a live stream for at least one draft live stream every single day, at least that I'm in town. I am going out of town next week for a live draft in Las Vegas for my redraft league. So we'll be doing a live draft every day that I'm home this week, at least on here. So you won't want to miss those ones. Turn notifications on if you want to see those. But let's kind of have a conversation here about Trey Lance, because again, last night on Let's Talk Dynasty, we were talking about the 49ers and we were talking about Trey Lance. And, the news was that he lost the QB2 job to Sam Darnold. So he was QB3 on the roster. And once he was named QB3, this rumor came out that they gave him permission to seek a trade partner, or he could find a trade, or potential Trey Lance would be traded, But it came out actually today that Kyle Shanahan says that he wants Trey Lance to be his QB3. He wants him to be QB3. And he thinks that the most likely scenario is that Trey Lance is a 49er week 1. So it's going to be interesting to see, are you guys watching this stream, are you guys believers in Trey Lance? If you are believers in Trey Lance, where would you like to see him go for fantasy football purposes, or even just for NFL purposes? Where would you like to see him go to get a shot to show what he can do? Because I definitely hear the argument where people say that they don't think that he's been given a fair shot. I could see it, man. But it's definitely something to consider. But I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. So type in the comments where you want to see Trey Lance go. And let's talk about real quick what has happened since George Kittle came off the board for us there at the 601. We did have Jahan Dotson, Christian Kirk, Zay Flowers, Alexander Madison, Damian Pierce, George Pickens, Mike Evans, Miles Sanders, Gabe Davis, Hollywood Brown, James Cook, James Conner, Cam Akers, David Montgomery, Jordan Addison, Michael Pittman, Javonte Williams, and Jackson Smith and Jigba come off the board. So here at pick 80, we are slowly approaching our next pick, and we are going to go right back to that running back well. Really, really, really would like to see Rachaad White make it to us there at that 84th pick. But we'll see. If he doesn't, I don't mind going a DeAndre Swift and an Alvin Kamara, but we probably are going to double tap the running back position here because of our last round where we ended up taking George Kittle. So you see, so far it's playing in our favor. Kyle Pitts off the board, Elijah Moore off the board, Dallas Goedert off the board. And as soon as Hunt Baby makes his pick, we'll double tap this running back position. So we'll take 2 of them. So we ended up taking Rachaad White and DeAndre Swift, both 2 backs that I think could get a good amount of receptions this offseason. Young, have some burst to him. Injuries obviously been a concern for DeAndre Swift, but so far it looks like he's locked down that RB1 role over there in Philadelphia, not playing in the preseason game last week, and for good reasons, not negative reasons. So we do have a running back room that is interesting. I haven't drafted a running back room like this all offseason yet. We do have J.K. Dobbins, Rachaad White, DeAndre Swift. So interesting running back room, but I like it, man. Let me know how you feel about these running backs on this roster in the comments. And then we also have a wide receiver room of A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and George Kittle. So not a bad team so far, man. I do have to admit I like this team. It's unique. It's different than, some teams that I've drafted earlier this year, but I really do think that this team has some pretty solid upside. So obviously, since our Swift pick right there at 801, we did have Dalvin Cook, Sky Moore, Khalil Herbert, and Courtland Sutton off the board. I do think Courtland Sutton, if Jerry Jeudy does miss extended periods of time this season, Courtland Sutton could be a value. Again, it feels like we say that every year, but maybe this year is the year. Who knows? Um, and then Alvin Kamara comes off the board, which I probably I could hear an argument that you take Kamara over White or Swift, but I have so many Kamara shares this season that, again, like I said earlier in this draft, I am trying to diversify a portfolio. So we do want to draft a couple unique names that we don't usually draft. So Swift is that's why I went Swift over Kamara. But if you are not familiar with some of the other news in the NFL today, the Cardinals did trade safety Isaiah Simmons to the Giants for a 2024 7th-round draft pick. So it's interesting because Isaiah Simmons was their first-round pick in 2020. He gets traded over to the New York Giants now. You would assume that he would become a starter over there on that team. He has struggled to adapt to the NFL a little bit. Obviously, he came in as a linebacker and switched to safety earlier last summer. It's been interesting for Isaiah Simmons, but he's an athletic freak. If Brian Daboll and their defensive coordinator over there can figure out a role for Isaiah Simmons and can kind of help him transition into maybe some type of hybrid role, it'll be interesting to see what Isaiah Simmons does over there in New York. But as a former first round pick getting traded for his 7th, it's hell of a value for the Giants, and interesting because we're starting to see the first signs and first real signs of the Arizona Cardinals tanking away. So they are trying to tank away, but it's going to be interesting, man. Interested to see what this Caleb Williams hunt turns into, which teams start to partake in the hunt for Caleb Williams. But yeah, man. So let's kind of recap where we went after the Alvin Kamara pick. Quentin Johnston, Isaiah Pacheco, Antonio Gibson, Michael Thomas, Deshaun Watson, Brian Robinson, Tua Tagovailoa, Anthony Richardson, A.J. Dillon, Evan Engram, Dak Prescott, and Zach Charbonnet off the board. So we do have to look at the quarterback position sooner rather than later. I will go in here and favorite some of the guys that I like: Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith. We could take Aaron Rodgers to stack with Garrett Wilson. And then I don't mind like a Derek Carr, Kenny Pickett. I'll even throw Goff in there. We'll throw him up a little bit. And then I would take a shot on Kyler late for some upside. And then maybe a Sam Howell late. But these are kind of the guys that we're looking at the quarterback position that I'm willing to take. So we just want 2 of them. I mean, we don't need anything else other than that. But we are 2 picks away. Treylon Burks, Rashad Bateman, and Juju Smith-Schuster off the board for us there. And I do see we have a chat in here. So Brett says, in a regular draft, are you more prone to a 0 RB or hero RB strategy? I mean, it doesn't really matter, honestly, to me, because when it comes down to what I'm doing in drafts, I'm really my strategy is going to change depending on where I'm picking from. If I'm towards the top half or the back half or even in the middle, it's going to change. It's going to change depending on what people are doing in the league, what people are drafting, what those strategies look like for those teams. But I would say this year, more often than not, I am liking my hero RB builds a little bit more than my 0 RB builds. So hero is where it does tend to be, but I'm gonna draft Daniel Jones here, and then we will take probably not Rashad Penny, but we will probably draft Tank Bigsby. I do think Tank Bigsby falls into a role there in Jacksonville this year, so we will take him. But I did take Daniel Jones over a guy that I like and a guy you guys probably are aware that I'm a fan of, that team, Kirk Cousins, because this is a 4-point passing touchdown. So I think Daniel Jones' rushing upside is just a little bit more, gives you a little bit more of a higher floor than Kirk Cousins does. Even though Kirk Cousins is very safe, he's not going to give you like league-winning numbers. But Daniel Jones could, I guess. He really could if he takes a step forward as a passer with Darren Waller being added to that team, and then, gives you similar rushing numbers to what he did last year. I mean, last year he finished top 10, so it'll be interesting to see what he does this year. So let's go back to the draft board. I will keep don't need to go all the way down there. I will keep pulling up some different news topics. Minor news: Vikings released wide receiver N'Keal Harry. So if you're a Dynasty guy, I know some people were excited about N'Keal Harry because he was looking good in practice, but yeah, he's cut. Not a big deal. The Browns did trade Joshua Dobbs to the Cardinals, so it looks like DTR or Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to fully be their QB2. I think they even cut Kellen Mond today, so they have committed to DTR, and well-deserved, because DTR has played fantastic from the preseason work that he's gotten so far. He's been really, really good. Las Vegas kid, man, played at Bishop Gorman, so shout out to the home city there. But DTR, man, earned the RB or the QB2 job behind Deshaun Watson, and looked good, man. So I see Brett, he says, where do you got Waller ranked for your rankings? I haven't finished my tight end redraft rankings yet, but I can tell you right now, I would probably, just looking at this board, right? I'll take Travis Kelce over him. I'll take Mark Andrews over him. I'll take TJ Hawkinson over him. I would consider him in that tier of George Kittle, Darren Waller, George Kittle, Dallas Goedert, Kyle Pitts. He's kind of in that tier. I think he's better than some of those guys. Obviously, health has been the concern with him, so he's going to be in that tier from 4 to 8. That's probably where he's going to be, but I probably lean Kittle over Waller. I don't know, man. I could have him as high as top 5. Brett says Gorman don't count as Vegas. They be cheating. Hey, man, we got to rep everybody that comes from the city, man. At least that's how I feel. I know Bishop Gorman be recruiting, but got to support those Vegas kids, man. At least I think. So since we drafted Tank Bigsby at the 10:01, we've had Samaje Perine, Geno Smith, Tyler Boyd, Dalton Kincaid, Kadarius Toney, David Njoku, Nico Collins, Odell Beckham, Zay Jones, Jalen Warren, Darnell Mooney, Rashad Penny, Jamal Williams, Jerick McKinnon come off the board. George, what? Brett says George Brittle. Look, man, I know it's mainly a joke probably on your end, but if we look up George Kittle, man, I know people talk about the injuries, and I used to be somebody who talks about the injuries too. I'm not going to lie. But when you go back and you look at what he's done since 2020, he's missed like 3 games total since 2020. That 2020 season, he missed some time. But since then, he's missed like 3 games total. Darren Waller missed like 10 games last year. So it's going to be, I don't know, man. You can't say George Brittle when there's people pumping up Darren Wallers who have missed like 10 games or 12 games in the last 2-3 seasons. So it is what it is. So we're about to be back up on the board. We're kind of getting into a tier. I do know that I don't like the way that the wide receiver position really fades off as we get later into these drafts. So we probably are going to have to get back at this wide receiver well. I'm probably going to double tap it right here. We do have Marvin Mims. He is going to step up. It says he could step up. No, he is going to step up. So we will draft Marvin Mims here. And he will be our wide receiver 5. And then what else I am going to do is I'm also going to probably shoot some upside. And I'm probably going to shoot the upside of a guy like Jonathan Mingo. And so we'll shoot Jonathan Mingo and hope that he ends up becoming the wide receiver 1 over there in Carolina, because there was some news that came out, and I'm gonna get to the article because I want to make sure that we're talking about it accurately. But there was some news that came out about, let me search it up, DJ Shark. So DJ Shark was injured. Oh wait, why is their page not found right here? There we go. DJ Shark's, he's dealing with a hamstring injury as well, so they do say that he could miss some time. Right now, the report is saying that DJ Shark, they don't give a specific recovery timeline, but I guess they said it doesn't sound great for Shark, is what they're saying. So with Shark, who I projected to potentially lead the team in receiving yardage this season for the Carolina Panthers. I think with him possibly missing some time, Jonathan Mingo's obviously the guy that they chose. They drafted him very highly. He could step up. So Brett is, he does say, I agree with you. I'm all about 702. Appreciate that one. And he says, wide receiver room's fire. I have to agree, man. I like this wide receiver room. AJ Garrett, Keenan, DJ Moore, Marvin Mims, Jonathan Mingo. It feels like a good team right there. But we have let's see how many rounds we have left. We have 6 rounds left. We do need a backup tight end. We do need a backup quarterback. And then we should probably get like 3 running backs and a wide receiver. So we probably should do like 3 and 1 at those positions. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with how heavy we smashed that position early on at the wide receiver position. We don't really need to add too much more depth, I don't think. One more guy will be sufficient enough. All right, so since our Mingo pick there at 1201, we have had Ezekiel Elliott come off the board for the New England Patriots, Tyler Algier off the board, MVS, Russell Wilson, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, Michael Gallup, Jordan Love, Dalton Schultz, Tyler Higbee. And we're kind of getting into that territory where, depending, you see DJ Shark off the board right after I talked about him. We got 4 quarterbacks that I still like. I would probably like to get Pickett or Carr more than I would like to get Kyler or Howell. So if one of them makes it to us on this next turn, that's likely where we're going to go. And then as I look at the tight end position, there's still some depth guys that I would potentially take. I mean, we took a tight end early, so we're going to have to rely on George Kittle. So I'm not going to reach and try and add like great depth behind him. Because we took one early, we're going to rely on him. That's kind of the way that I go with these drafts. If Kittle doesn't pan out, we're going to live and die by that. So is what it is. Since that Shark pick, we did have the other Carolina Panther, Thielen, and then KJ Osborne, Elijah Mitchell, Jalen Hyatt off the board. So let's get back to, some of the news that we've had here. And another one that we haven't talked about tonight is the ESPN. Adam Schefter is reporting that Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin is going to be uncertain for their regular season opener after spraining his toe. They're saying typically it's a multiple week injury. By the time week 1 rolls around, McLaurin will have been 19 removes from the injury. So it does put him on the back end of that timeline, that timetable. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. In the meantime, I mean, even if it's just a week or 2 weeks, Jahan Dotson's going to be fantastic if McLaurin misses some time. So Dotson looks good, man. If you watch the preseason game that they had the other night, Dotson looks damn good, man. I mean, he's proving everybody right that believed that he should have been a first-round wide receiver. And if you didn't think he should have been a first-round wide receiver, you're biting your tongue now because Dotson looks like the real deal. So it'll be some good stuff for Jahan Dotson. And obviously you want to have Terry McLaurin out there. He's a crucial piece to that offense, and he's going to be crucial in the development of Sam Howell because you want to have those guys on the field for him to throw to. So, hopefully he is ready for week 1, but keep that in mind as you're, drafting some teams over the next couple of weeks as we approach this season. So we are here on the board. You do see we got Derek Carr here. And I think we're going to draft Kenny Pickett over Carr. I just believe that he can take that next step, man. I really am believing in Kenny Pickett this year. And maybe that is a sketch quarterback room. It probably is a sketchy quarterback room with Kenny Pickett and Daniel Jones. But it's what we're going to end up doing. And then what we're going to do is take Devin Singletary. I've been drafting him as of lately as a depth running back. So I think he gets some potential run. And then obviously if there's a Dameon Pierce injury at all this year, he could really get some run. But Brett does say Only thing I can say I dislike about the squad is Swift. Hate the Eagles' backfield as a whole. Yeah, I mean, the reality of it is it was a upside play, right? Like, um, DeAndre Swift, I know this was with a different team, so the role is going to change, and we can't predict what that role is going to look like for him. But historically, since 2020, he has been top 15 in fantasy football points per game every single season, and then 2021 he was number 8 in fantasy points per game. So um, it's an upside play. You hope that when he's playing, he's giving you those RB2 numbers at worst, and those are probably high-end RB2 numbers, but it's been the availability, right? Like, he's 2022, he played 14 games, 2021, 13 games, 2020, 13 games. Like, he's missing 3 to 4 games every year. It's like a month of the season that he just doesn't show up. And so that's been kind of the knock on DeAndre Swift, but he's very efficient. 5.5 yards per carry last year in 2022. The reception numbers obviously are not elite reception numbers, but they were very good because 48 receptions for 390 yards. You'll take that when you're getting some points per reception. So that was really the only upside play for us, or the only reason why we did that. And also, with this being a tournament where the lowest scoring teams get eliminated and kicked out, I didn't want to inherit the Alvin Kamara suspension early in the season, because if we needed those points and we got kicked out, it's not going to matter anyways, because once we're out of the tournament, we're out. And so I wanted to take Swift, who I know is going to play week 1, or at least we hope so. Obviously, there's going to be injuries that can still happen between now and then, but that's kind of the reasoning for the DeAndre Swift take. But you see, after our Singletary pick, we did have Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then Rondale Moore, Jaden Reed, Isaiah Hodgins, Derek Carr, Tajay Spears, Chickasee Okonkwo, Alec Pierce, Juwan Johnson, Greg Dulcich, and Brock Purdy. So how are you guys feeling about these games that we have going on tonight? We do have some preseason games tonight. We are going to get to watch the Steelers and the Falcons. So you see we have Kenny Pickett on this team. We're going to get to see him have a drive or two. He's looked good in limited action so far this preseason. I do think that the Steelers do take that game tonight. And then we do have the Colts versus the Eagles as well tonight. So we will get to see some of those. We get to see some Anthony Richardson. And I think the Colts end up winning that game. So let me know who you guys think are winning these 2 games tonight in the comments. We got Steelers, Falcons, and Colts, Eagles. Who's winning these games tonight? And so since that Brock Purdy pick, Kyler Murray did come off the board, Devontae Parker off the board, Tank Dell, Zamir White, Kendre Miller. And, we have our backup quarterback on this roster now. We have one of the 3 running backs that we said we were going to draft. So we probably need a tight end, a receiver, and 2 backs with these 4 picks. We're no longer going to need Sam Howell. Unfortunately, as much as I like Sam Howell, I'm not getting a lot of him in drafts this year, which is funny because I really do like Sam Howell. I think he can break out this year, but I'm drafting values at the quarterback position earlier, which then I don't find myself needing quarterbacks. So maybe I need to take some teams where I prioritize a different position early and get Sam Howell really late. But we did have Howell off the board after Curtis Samuel. Then Gus Edwards comes off the board. And then Justin Ross is obviously off the board right there, followed by Irv Smith. So we're getting kind of ugly at this tight end position. I think what we're going to end up doing is we'll probably take our last wide receiver here. And then we will take we're going to take Rashid Shaheed out of Weber State. Shout out Weber State Wildcats. Fellow alumni there, Rashid. But we're going to take him. He's going to finish out our wide receiver room. Just some big playability with Rashid Shaheed. And then we are going to grab, I know it's going to be scary for some of you guys because you're seeing me scroll down the board, but we have that long ass turn I'm going to take Hayden Hurst. I think Hayden Hurst is going to be decent. So we are buying into the Panthers offense with Mingo and Hurst. I don't know how many points they're going to score, but there's a real chance that these two guys are the best receiving options on the team when it's all said and done at the end of the year. So we're good on our tight end. We're good on our wide receiver. We got 2 picks left here at the end of this draft, and we're going to be taking 2 running backs. So the team is slowly taking shape. Just let's recap a little bit of where we have come from. In the first round, keep in mind we're drafting from the 12 spot, so we have a very long turn after our second round pick. We take A.J. Brown and Garrett Wilson, 1 and 2. Third and fourth round, we go Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. 5 and 6 round, we go Dobbins and Kittle. 7 and 8, we go White and Swift. 9 and 10, we go Daniel Jones and Tank Bigsby. 11 and 12, we go Marvin Mims, Jonathan Mingo. 13, 14, Kenny Pickett, Devin Singletary. And then 15, 16, Rashid Shaheed and Hayden Hurst. And Brett says, why do I feel that Shark leads that team for wide receivers? See, that's funny, Brett, because I said that too. I said that I thought that DJ Shark would lead the team in receiving yards, but as I just talked about on the stream not too long ago, or really when we were making that Jonathan Mingo pick is when I talked about it. But DJ Shark with that hamstring injury, man, those hamstring injuries, they linger. He recently suffered it, and like I said, with their head coach there, Frank Reich is saying that it doesn't look good, and they think that there's an extended absence for Shark, impending. So Shark, it sounds like he's going to miss some time, and if he misses some time, it's not going to be good. So that's the only reason why I think that Mingo is probably going to end up leading that team now. I'm not a big believer in Adam Thielen at this point in his career. Obviously, I got a lot of love for Adam Thielen. He gave us a lot of really good years in Minnesota, but the wheels are kind of really falling off over there for Adam Thielen. So I know there's a lot of people who think that he's going to be the bona fide wide receiver 1 in Carolina. It's not going to happen, man. So is what it is. Since our Hayden Hurst pick, we did have Paris Campbell come off the board, Michael Wilson off the board, Hunter Henry, Richie James, Jake Ferguson, Kareem Hunt, Darius Slayton, Deuce Vaughn, Matthew Stafford, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So all of those guys off the board. One more piece of news that we're going to talk about here, and we're going to go back and talk about Keenan Allen, because I mentioned how I think Keenan Allen is going to be the biggest beneficiary of this big year that I think Justin Herbert is going to come. If you have tuned into the channel before, the likelihood of you hearing me pump up and gas up Justin Herbert is likely very high. People who watch this channel know that I'm big on Justin Herbert this year. My guy for me in 2023. Well, the Athletics' Daniel Popper says that Keenan Allen has been the focal receiver in Kellen Moore's offense during camp. And so if I am projecting a bounce back and a potentially MVP-like season out of Justin Herbert this year, and Keenan Allen is the guy who is the focal receiver in that offense, we could really see a target hog season for Keenan Allen. And he could very, very easily finish as a low-end wide receiver 1 on your fantasy football rosters, or at least the games that he's in there, because obviously the age and the health can, is always a concern as you get a little bit older. But Keenan Allen could be a very, very big piece to that offense. And if he is, he's going to be a value for your fantasy football teams. Rambin, I see you in the chat. What's up, man? How you doing? We did have, since that Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick, we had Luke Musgrave, Dante Foreman, Khalil Shakir, Dawson Knox, Tyler Conklin, Mecole Hardman, Hunter Renfrow, Ryan Tannehill, Chuba Hubbard, and Mac Jones off the board. We got 2 picks left. John Mechie off the board. We need some running backs, man. Probably just 2 more depth pieces. And one guy that I've been drafting a lot as we get down here is Leonard Fournette. I've been drafting a lot of Leonard Fournette. It's going to be hard for me to imagine a scenario, especially if like Jonathan Taylor's being traded and things like that, where Leonard Fournette doesn't get a phone call. And when he does, he's going to be brought in to be a piece of an offense. So it's hard for me not to draft Leonard Fournette down here. Rombin says, all good, man. Hey, I appreciate you stopping by the stream. Means a lot. If you like what you see, give a like to the video. Consider subscribing. We are trying to get to 450 subscribers tonight. So go ahead and consider that. And if you have any questions for anything, ask me, man. Happy to answer anything you got. So we will draft Leonard Fournette here. And then what we will also do is we're going to just draft. I think what we'll do is we'll draft some. We're going to draft some Keontae Ingram because I think he's going to get that RB2 role behind James Conner. And if James Conner misses time, which he has in the past, he could get some run, especially if they're trying to tank. Like, they're not going to go in and get it back like Leonard Fournette. They will just let Keontae Ingram get the bulk of the load. So that is going to be what we got. Brett says, I just heard some hate from the Vikings fan on the beloved Thielen. No, man. I mean, well, first and foremost, he's not a Viking anymore. But I said I love Adam Thielen, man. I just think that, the years of him being an elite option in fantasy football, they're not there anymore, man. Rombin says, what do you think is better, Saquon or Josh Jacobs full PPR? Full PPR, I'm going to lean Saquon Barkley. I have him higher in my rankings. Let me actually pull them up for you right now because I do have those available. In my redraft rankings, I have Saquon Barkley as running back 4 this season. I have Josh Jacobs as my running back 8. So that is where I am with those guys. So I do prefer Saquon Barkley over Jacobs just by a little bit. And so since Ingram, we did have Desmond Ridder, Deion Jackson, Joshua Palmer, Deontay Hardy. But let's talk about our team here. Isaiah Likely off the board there as well. Let's talk about our team because our build is finished. At the quarterbacks, we have Daniel Jones and Kenny Pickett. At the running back positions, we have J.K. Dobbins, Rashad White, DeAndre Swift, Tank Bigsby, Devin Singletary, Leonard Fournette, Keontae Ingram. At the wide receiver position, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Marvin Mims, Jonathan Mingo, and Rashid Shaheed. And then at the tight end position, we have George Kittle and Hayden Hurst. So that is the roster. Let me know what you guys think, strengths and weaknesses of this team, how you think we're going to perform. Again, this is 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, half-point PPR, no tight end premium. So interesting. This was a draft where we drafted in the little eliminator. So the lowest scoring teams every week in each league get kicked out, and they keep merging and merging and merging until you get to that one team that wins it all. $500,000 prize pool. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I might draft a couple more teams in this eliminator just for fun. Ramen says, do you think I should trade Stevenson and Christian Watson for Saquon full PPR 10 team? Ramen, is this a redraft league or a dynasty league? In a redraft league, I would trade Stevenson and Watson for Saquon. In a dynasty league, I probably would not. So if it's redraft, I would, because I think Saquon gives you more week winning upside than those guys do. But those guys are good depth. If you can possibly get in a redraft league, obviously, if you can get another wide receiver that you can maybe flex to go with Saquon. So Stevenson and Watson for Saquon and a flex wide receiver. I like that more. But I don't mind this trade, man. I think Saquon is the best piece in the deal. And when you're in these 10-team leagues where depth doesn't matter as much, go get those superstars. And Saquon's going to be a superstar for you. So we did conclude this draft. It looks like we had Isaiah Likely, Ty Chandler, Noah Fant, Calvin Austin, Bryce Young, and Jelani Woods come off the board. But let's look at some of these other teams. We do have this team hoarded the quarterbacks, it looks like. So that's an interesting build, and multiple tight ends. We got this team here, more quarterbacks. It looks like a lot of these teams took a lot of quarterbacks. We only just have 2, but it's going it's gonna be interesting to see, man. Ramen says, okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it, man. We're gonna be streaming every day this week, so I know you just caught the last bit of this one, but we got more of them in a playlist. It's called Best Ball Draft, so you can find that playlist. And then tomorrow when we're live, come tap back in with us, man. Subscribe, like the content, and we will see you guys here on the next video. I don't have anything else for you guys today. We still are going to be pumping out those team previews, the fantasy team previews. So expect those in the morning tomorrow, and then a stream in the evening. So that's the way we're going to do it tomorrow. More coming soon. I will see you guys on the next video. Peace out.